Recently, Steven Spielberg released his remake of the 1961 musical film West Side Story, so I decided to give the original a quick rewatch in anticipation of its release. The original is directed by Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise. It's a classic of sorts in film, and I believe that the original stage musical is a classic. It's kind of like set the groundwork for what a musical could be. The themes within it are timeless, and the music is pretty good. I personally am not a huge fan of musicals. I would say I like the Mamma Mia musicals, and everything else is kind of like hit or miss for me. I did like Tick Tick Boom, which is a recent one that was released. This whole year's been filled with musicals. It's got some of the best original musical numbers. Maria is one of the ones that comes to mind, even though it's just the one of the protagonists repeating the name Maria over and over again. Leonard Bernstein did the music for the film, and Stephen Sondheim did the lyrics for these musical numbers, and he recently passed I believe like a week or so ago. The opening musical number to this, it's got like no dialogue, and that's probably one of my favorite parts. It introduces the world, it introduces us to the west side of New York, and also the rivalry between the Sharks and the Jets, and it does so with no dialogue. It's carried purely through the choreography and the music, which, yeah, I really love that opening scene. And there are other moments, I think, within this one that I also enjoyed, but I don't think it ever lives up to what the opening promises. Rito Moreno is totally a standout performance for me. I mean, I was interested in the Sharks more than the Jets, so it makes sense that she would be my favorite character, my favorite performance in all this. Was not a fan of Maria and Tony. The whole thing, I know it's like based on Romeo and Juliet, but them falling in love it feels so out of place so quickly, and then to be like, no, I'm gonna let all these people die for this person I met a day ago. And then also Tony, it's annoying in this and inconsistent. Like, they build up his character, but then they never really deliver on it until he kills someone in the end. But other than that, he does not seem like this tough guy at all. He also has a very punchable face. I don't know. Like, he's constantly smiling, it's like almost goofy, and I get it, like he's supposed to be portraying how he's like in love, but I just wasn't a huge fan of him. Like I mentioned, the Maria song is great though. I think what really carries that one is the visual aspect behind it. Also, Maria, played by Natalie Wood, who I think Natalie Wood is a terrific actress. It just doesn't work in this one at all. I mean, she's white, playing a Puerto Rican, which, yeah, that's a major problem. But then like the accent that she does in this, it's so bad, and it reminded me of whenever like I'm trying to do an Italian impression after watching mobster movies. It's just, yeah, it's so bad. I would not have kept Natalie Wood in this. I guess it was because like star power is why they were keeping her, but yeah, those two lead performances I think were definitely on the weaker side. As I mentioned with the Maria song, the visual aspect of this it's really great. There's a bunch of direction behind the way the scenes transition from one another and what's being like portrayed on screen. Everything flows. It flows perfectly, I think, but it does still feel really long at times. The color grading, I think, is like the color aspect is what really captures me. There's greens, reds, blues. It's not very drowned out or like grays, which is what I'm so used to nowadays in big blockbuster movies. And yeah, it like creates a sort of mood behind it. I can clearly see the influence that the original film has had on modern romances and musicals, or romantic musicals, I guess. Especially like with La La Land, like there's so much color used in that one. There's so much color used in West Side Story. It's almost a direct parallel at times. A lot of the movie doesn't age well though from a technical standpoint. I understand technology wasn't what it was at, but I don't know, I can't really excuse it because there's some technology in older movies that still holds up. I think like Star Wars, the special effects in Star Wars, special effects in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Jaws, stuff like that. I know it was a lot later, but yeah, it was just pretty. It was pretty rough at points where I couldn't really get behind it. The biggest one for me was when it's the love at first sight scene, and I understand what they're trying to do, with blurring everyone else out except for Tony and Maria as they're falling in love. But it's just so distracting. At times, I think it would have just been better not to do that and just kind of find a different way to portray them falling in love. And yeah, I've kind of already hit on this, but I wasn't really interested in any of the characters. It might be the musical format, so I wasn't getting behind a lot of the development. But I just wasn't really a fan of any of the characters except for Doc. I think Doc, yeah, that's his name, is Doc. Uh, I like that one. I liked him. He was the only likable character, I think, the only one that I could really, well, besides Anita, but he was one of the only characters I could really get behind and like understand where he was coming from and enjoy seeing him on screen. And the Jets in this one just straight up suck. They're all kind of mopey and edgy, not in a good way. Like, oh, I'm so misunderstood and all this, but it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't really justify it, which that's just the source material there. And yeah, they just kind of suck. The Sharks aren't much better, and they do a lot of messed up stuff at times. I really hope Spielberg finds a way to fix this problem, because I can't find any of the characters enjoyable. So that's what kind of ruins the movie for me, because like I said, the visual aspect behind it, it's like, yeah, I'm on board for this, and then boom, the characters come in and I'm just completely uninvested in the movie. However, I've now seen the West Side Story, Steven Spielberg's rendition of it, remake of it, and I think it's better than the original. A lot of the same flaws, though. I think it's really long. You feel the runtime, 2 hours and 37 minutes, I think, something like that. And yeah, you really feel it at times. The leads still aren't super likable. I think they're a little bit more likable. Maria's more likable, but Tony, yeah, there's just so much going on with Tony. I mean, they clearly try to. It's really hard because of Ansel Elgort in the role, and like the age gap between Maria and Tony. Just, yeah, it makes it really difficult to believe that romance, which is the driving force of this narrative. Once again, my favorite part of this was Anita, Ariana DeBose. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Had a larger role in it as Anita, and Anita was my favorite part of the original, so to see her get even more screen time and really see her reaction to Bernardo, I think was really great. Overall, I think the Sharks were really well done in this one, and the cinematography on this one was also insane. I mean, there were so many. Okay, I'm not really sure. If I'm being honest, I don't even know what cinematography really means. But there was just so many cool shots within this, especially they go to the brawl, like everything. I was amazed, dazzled by the visual element of the movie all the way throughout. The songs were more memorable in this one, I think, which is weird because they're the same songs. But I think it's because Spielberg attaches an imagery to the songs that improve them. With every single song, a specific image comes to mind, and that's just Spielberg's attention to detail and how he's able to really perfect the imagery here, and connect the audio aspect of a film to the visual aspect of it. The Mambo dance-off scene and Love at First Sight was like pure Spielberg for me. I was crying during that part. It wasn't because I was sad. It was just so beautiful, so magical. He did a really great job on that scene. I think the only scene that really can compete with the Mambo dance-off is the final brawl between the Jets and the Sharks. From portraying the just rawness of the brawl and brutality behind it to showing how small this squander is in the larger scheme of things, he's creating so much to go on. It's so much between it. I also don't think it ran too long, and seeing Tony have a larger role in this was really great because you really saw him trying. You saw the emotional weight of it, whereas in the original you don't really get to see that. It's just like a little choreography, and then boom, deaths. There was really cool shots that really cool visual aspects I just wasn't expecting. There is like a sort of muted color tone at times, which I thought was gonna really ruin the movie for me. But Spielberg really like uses it to his advantage, and to really make the other colors pop out when he needs them to, whether that be colors to represent culture or colors to represent just love and brotherhood and sisterhood as well. I think that switching out Doc with Valentina was super impactful and a brilliant move on the screenwriter's behalf. Rita Moreno was perfectly utilized. They even let her sing a song. She had one solo. She sang Somewhere from the original one, and yeah, that was great. I think most of the changes from the original improved the story a lot. Tony had a larger presence in this, and actual character sort of thing. They delivered on that idea of him having a reputation and him being this sort of macho guy. It was just rough to watch him at times because of Ansel Elgort. One, because it's Ansel Elgort, who just not a cool guy at all. He's not a good actor by any means. Like, he was never a good actor to begin with. He was just always kind of there to sort of look cool, which is a lot difficult to do now. He doesn't really have that anymore with everything that's happened with him. So him being a bad actor just doesn't help. At the end, Tony's supposed to be like super sad about Maria's death, and it was so bad. His acting was. I started to laugh in the movie theater, and it was a very serious scene, and I couldn't help but laugh because, the performance behind it was just not there. It was very campy at times. It reminds me something of it reminded me almost like Tobey Maguire's crying in the original Spider-Man movie. It was pretty bad. That was the only performance I felt flat. I enjoyed this one a lot more than the original. It's magical where it needs to be and grounded at other times. It perfectly juggles the realistic aspects with the musical aspects, immersing them and sort of transitioning into them without it coming across as corny at times, which I think is really difficult. That it wasn't as corny as it could have been, because the original one is pretty corny. Overall, I would give West Side Story a 78 out of 100. A definite improvement over the original.